in Rwanda, you have a particular challenge. There's money in the banks. Even the president of Rwanda likes to say, there's money on the continent, there's a lot of wealth. The question is how to tie that wealth to productive investment. And in a country like Rwanda, in many countries, small and medium-sized enterprises are key to getting and maintaining the type of economic growth that Rwanda wants to have to achieve its middle-income status. So finding ways to help the private sector support those businesses through private sector means is really one of the underlying elements behind the Nguriza Nshore, or lend so I may invest concept.
So you work on this with the USAID to see how you can support the agriculture sector, but of course mostly the youth, because they're the ones mainly behind small and medium enterprises. Do you find the financing itself being the red and blue pill for success for this particular market segmentation, or do you have even more that is involved other than just the financement?
Well, obviously, you can't just put money in a bad idea. So you need good ideas. You need, whether it's a young person who's on a farm looking for an opportunity to increase his wealth and the business opportunity for his family, you need not only financing availability and that matchmaking that Nguriza Nshore provides, but you also need good ideas. So one of the components of the program is to help those who have businesses that are up and running, but who may not know where their comparative advantage is in Rwanda or in the region, to develop those ideas so that you can make them more attractive for potential investors.
So what you do is you work with investors and the farms at the same time, the SMEs?
Well, not the farms, but because much of the program is on agribusiness. So dependent on farms, but and the programs that we're supporting with customized guidance on how to do business development is for agribusiness. So that means people who are using, for example, potato chips. People are making potato chips from potatoes grown in Rwanda into chips manufactured in Rwanda. Or, for example, there's a company, Chillington, that makes wheelbarrows and other tools for the farming sector. Those are made in Rwanda as well. And they require, and so they give value to the individual person in the agricultural sector. But as you said, ag is about 70% of the economy, but only about 30% of the GDP. So there's a lot of room to grow.
All right, and of course we did see about 80 companies being sourced and reviewed, of course, during this entire process of the Nguriza Nshore, but only 13 of those were found investment ready, of course, to take on a new step towards the future of scalability and also looking at financial stability for these particular companies. Tell me, walk me through the vetting process. How did you even land on the 80 companies themselves, or how do you move on down to the 13 of them? You might not have, I might need to ask someone from USAID, but I believe that you have the answer.
No, I was, when we first launched it in September, it got off to a fairly quick start. There were training opportunities, there were publicity about the program, and I went to one of the opening sessions. It was at a Kigali incubator. And you had, I don't know, maybe 60 or 70 companies that were there, small, or the representatives from 60 companies. And they were there to go both through a training exercise, but then also to be vetted by the Nguriza Nshore team to find out which ones are really at that stage where they need more financing to be able to scale their investments. And from that group of maybe, and they're still involved, many of those companies are still involved and being guided through the process of getting ready for the capital injections that they may need from either local banks or from equity investors abroad or that come to Rwanda. So those that were most ready went to Sandkelp in Nairobi, because that's where they could meet angel investors and private equity representatives that are based in Nairobi and matchmake and find out where might there be synergies between the investor and these really at the cusp ready Rwandan and international entrepreneurs who are investing and building businesses here in Kigali and the rest of the country.
So in your point of view, how do you see Sandkelp being as of importance to the journey of these 13 companies that were part of the SANCOP? How do you see that synergy helping them grow out of just Rwanda, but also to work across different spectrums?
Well, one thing, and we heard that from one of the business people tonight, is that having a group go, and they had some investor or not guidance team that was with them from the bid network, and they went together, and so they had sort of a technical support team to help them and help them even set up meetings. So of the group that went to Nairobi, each one of them had anywhere from 4 to 18 different meetings with potential investors, and that's almost been immediately followed up with requests for information, information to try to tie together deals potentially. And here's the thing. In Rwanda, it's possible, again, Nguriza Nshore is trying to educate banks and other lending institutions about debt solutions. How do you take on low-cost or lower-cost debt to be able to meet your financing challenges? The group that went to Nairobi was looking for potential equity investment in their companies, or who are looking for, there's all sorts of different array of investment vehicles that are even from zero interest debt that was on offer to different types of combinations of equity and debt that were available in Nairobi, because that's where there's a lot of financial innovation happening and matchmaking that can occur.
Right. And of course, we understand that this is a 5-year program, and it's mainly designed to support SMEs and, of course, on their way to find seed capital. But if you maybe disclose to us, how much money is invested in this?
Well, the total program is around $15 million for that 5-year period. But already, in just this first 6 months of the program, and these companies, the companies that went to Nairobi, we anticipate in the coming months, as deals close in terms of financing availability, we expect perhaps as much as $20 million just in this first half year of the Nguriza Nshore program. The goal over 5 years is 45, a mixture of debt and equity. And so we're potentially only 1/10 of the way through the program, and potentially, again, may have raised nearly half of what was anticipated in the program. I think that's a testimony to the good ideas that are here in Rwanda, the investment climate that is currently here, and the interest of whether it's impact investors or others in looking to Rwanda as a potential place to put money, see it grow, and have a positive impact in terms of jobs. We hope that there will be as many as 30,000 jobs created with that kind of investment.
And of course, we'll definitely touch base with that because it kind of aligns with the Rwanda strategy for 7 years. That's the National Transformation Strategy. And before we go on the on and off farm jobs, I just want us to quickly run back a little bit to SANCOP. Of course, one of the main reasons that you say they were there was to get to learn about how things are done in different countries, and this is where the heavy hitters, all entrepreneurs, startup entrepreneurs from around the region meet. And I just want to know, when it comes to expansion, of course, which is one of the biggest reason for the backing, right? What do you spot as the biggest constraint to this?
Well, I mean, a constraint obviously is that it's a big market. Right. The continent is a big market, and so, but there are more than 50 countries. And so the continental, I'm actually turning your constraint question into an opportunity. With the Continental Free Trade Agreement, with the Customs Union in East Africa, there's a lot of potential for businesses here to export to the region. For example, exporting mushrooms grown in Rwanda to Uganda and Kenya. That's happening now.
Northern Corridor.
Yeah, and there are brioche that are being manufactured. I've been to the factory here in Kigali that are being shipped by truck across Uganda into Kenya, and they're flying out on Air France flights to Europe. So there's a lot of potential for this interconnectivity, the land linkedness of Rwanda and the East African community. And I think that traveling to SANCOP, where this center of energy is with the financial sector, will perhaps entice some of those very same investors to take another look at Rwanda, come here, and look at the possibilities among the many other small and medium enterprises that we are trying to nurture along as they develop their ideas into vibrant businesses.
Right. Now, you mentioned that this particular project will definitely look at maybe growth of jobs to about 30,000 jobs just from the Nguriza Nshore project and the businesses that are involved. For Rwanda, however, we're looking at about 1.5 million jobs created before the end of 2024. That's when the National Transformation Strategy is set. But let's look more on the agriculture as a sector. Yeah. You mentioned there about 30% to GDP and 70% to 80% of the jobs created. Speak to me more about growth in that particular sector. Currently, we're seeing a lot of investment for the youth to actually get involved. How do you see this turning the sector around?
Well, I think there's a lot of promising ideas in agriculture and in agribusiness. I mean, agriculture itself, look, you can, a powerhouse in agriculture is Holland, small country. And they're one of the biggest producers of agriculture using high tech. And that's something where there's a lot of investment here in Rwanda for that. I think the climate, it offers a lot of potential as well. So one of the things that, for example, Hollanda Fair Foods is doing is taking materials that are produced here, currently potatoes and maybe even the safflower oil to create the chips from Rwanda. And so there's a lot of potential to turn product into a more value-added commodity through agribusiness. So that's really going to be the ticket, because on a certain limited amount of land, you're only going to get a certain amount of employment. But if you create agribusiness that is a good adjunct to it, you're going to have a lot more potential to find jobs that are good jobs, well-paying jobs, for those people who are going to be coming onto the labor market.